Shalom, all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Harakah Kadash, double honors unto your apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well, and shalom to the hopeful elect. This is a news and prophecy where we go into news and break it down, utilizing prophecy, alright? Because we were told by Yahweh Shai to watch as well as pray. So what we're watching for the news. We have to watch the news to see if any of the prophecies that he outlined in these last days are coming to pass, to be ready onto the wedding, all right? To not be caught naked, but to have our wedding garments ready and to have our oil ready, so we have the light in a time of darkness. So this is an article from the Daily Beast, all right? The title reads, "Smart cities are creating a mass surveillance nightmare." All right, and the article reads, more than 1 million New Yorkers could soon willingly agree to carry a government-issued tracking device, whether they realize it or not. All right, that's the proposal from Mayor Bill de Blasio, who, having recently returned from the cornfield-dotted campaign trail in Iowa, is setting his sights on transforming New York City into something out of a dystopian sci-fi film. But some critics are urging caution about the move. All right. Okay, so this is why the fuss is about a tiny RFID chip that the mayor wants to embed into each and every municipal ID card for New York residents as part of the ID NYC program. All right, and this is something whether you're aware of it or not. Okay, dealing with Sweden. Sweden is technologically advanced, as far as I can remember. It's dealing with London by 10 years, all right? That's why they have a great, vast amount of people that are independently chipping themselves with RFID chips and basically, into transhumanism, and cashless payments are through the roof over there. Majority of the payments are cashless. Right now, when you deal with London or the UK, but I hone in on London actually, because London has the thing known as the Oyster card, which is a travel card for those within the zones 1 to, I believe it goes up to zone 8 actually, but most common zones is zone 6, alright? So 1 to 6, you have an Oyster card and you can utilize that for transport when you top it up by putting cash upon it. But now, over the past few years, they've basically utilized bank cards as well to have that same form of technology where you can use your bank card as a form of ubiquitous technology. So you can, you don't have to buy an Oyster card which costs £5. You can just use your bank card and go in and out, all right? But the reason why I mention all that as well is because even with the transport system, because they've made leaps and bounds in terms of dealing with without cash. They've taken away human interfaces, all right? So you can't go to, on the underground, you can't go to someone that they used to have, like, I forgot what they're called. You have to pay, and you go to the person that works in the station, you ask them for that. Now you have to go to a machine. And the same thing with the buses, all right? You can't pay by cash no more. You have to actually you use an Oyster card or your bank card to travel, okay? So the reason why I mention all that is because London isn't too far behind Sweden, all right? It ain't at the same pace. It said in the article I read from the BBC, so they're like 10 years behind, all right? Now, in terms of America, I know over there, and I know from over here, dealing with a lot of Americans in stores and whatnot, in previous jobs I've had, that when they use their card, their credit or debit card, they still have to sign, and they don't have no NFCs in their cards, all right? They don't know about contactless payment, right? That's because they're behind in that regard. Even dealing with the passports, so I'm not too sure about American passports, but I know for a fact the UK passports, you can basically put your passport down on a barrier at the airport and go through. All right, it will have facial recognition. It will scan an RFID chip in or NFC chip in your passport, and you can get in and out, and it's very quick. All right, So, in terms of Europe, technologically, it's very advanced dealing with passports and whatnot and different modes of transport for identification. Now, America is starting to roll out now, and that's why you have this thing. This is part of the rollout, the ID NYC. All right. So this is obviously causing some tension. The latest proposal might seem modest, but the reality is that it potentially puts hundreds of thousands of us at greater risk of identity theft, because then people can duplicate their IDs of people with by copying the chip inside of the ID card, and then basically having access to greater things, stalking. Okay, I'm guessing via GPS, by tracking. You know what I mean? And then and for undocumented New Yorkers, deportation. So basically, if you ain't got documents, it's gonna make it easier for them to track you down because you have to have this ID card. And sadly, it's part of the global trend towards so-called smart cities. All right, and that's it. Like New York is following in line with many of smart cities, because the last time I was out there, going back to 2016, I believe, or 2017, can't remember when I was last in New York. The same machines that they have on the street, the streets in New York City, like Manhattan and whatnot, downtown, wherever it is. I believe it's downtown Manhattan, Times Square and all that. They got the electric billboards, okay, or not, on the street, and you could charge your phone on it. Had USB. You could call numbers. They have the same thing in London, all over the streets. All right. So the same forms of technology. These cities look one and the same. All right, in terms of what technology is on the ground. And it's the same thing that's over there in New York. It's over here in the UK. We ain't got no red telephone boxes no more. We got those same things. So that shows you that what's being said here is definitely a global trend. All right. So a series of high-tech undertakings that claim to improve municipal efficiency at the modest price of stripping us of our privacy and autonomy. All right, so it's basically making us zeros and ones of data in a system that's tracking us at all times. It'd be a dubious trade-off if the technology delivered, but increasingly we see that these systems take more than we feared, while delivering far less than we were promised. All right, so we ain't getting a good bargain out of this. But obviously, it's for the forwarding of agenda of the elites, but ultimately the plan of the Most High Power, Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai Ba'Shem Harakat Kadash, making his word be fulfilled. Smart cities proponents claim that by integrating the Internet of Things, right, different technologies like mobile phones, that any device that connects to the internet is part of the Internet of Things. Artificial intelligence, robots and whatnot, which they're making leaps and bounds in utilizing, dealing with DARPA, and even just these other companies making robot servants and whatnot, even sex robots, all different forms of robots, and networks of sensors that we can make our children smarter, our commutes faster, and even save lives. So basically, that even goes into transhumanism, all right? So basically, making man and machine one and the same, all right? The outlandish claims don't end there. Smart cities are heralded as a solution to everything from the opioid crisis to the de facto school segregation. So all the problems we have, they're saying that the smart cities, is the cure to the problems, all right? Perhaps the most outlandish claim yet is that knockoff RoboCops will even prevent crimes before they even happen. And that's true, because they showed you that there's a thing known as predictive programming. They showed you that in Minority Report, and that's what they're working towards. Working to having supercomputers that weigh up, have people's data or their cookies, or what's the other, a cache of information upon you in terms of what you're into and different things of that, and your behaviors upon the internet, that they can predict your next move, and they can see if you're going to be a liability to society in terms of committing crimes, and they can obviously obtain you prior to a crime happening. All right, and these are things that are happening. Okay, in the court of law, the movement is only in its infancy, but the smart city programs already include every municipal service from schools to hospitals to sanitation to law enforcement, and those outside major cities aren't exempt either. Increasingly, towns, big and small, are being taken in by the promise of data-driven society. Yeah, I remember there was an article that came out recently that a town in America had their whole, I believe it was of 3,000 or something, a really low amount, that they all got decked out with police CCTV that was basically connected directly to the police, and that on alert they'll directly have a rollout of coppers going over there, the old bill, to basically deal with anything that is problematic, basically. Right, more data, more problems. And it reads, the privacy risk is hard to overstate. Government agencies will have increasing amounts of extremely sensitive data about our health, our children's school performance, and where we spend our free time. Go to the bar, the smart city knows. Go to a protest, it probably knows that too. And so will anyone who hacks in. Right, hacking isn't some theoretical risk, it's already happened. As early as 2014, security researchers starting raising the alarm that critical city systems were encrypted and completely vulnerable to attack. The same year, the Department of Homeland Security admitted that hackers had broken into a public utility by simply guessing the password. Wow. But you know what that is? That shows you that, okay, this is definitely gonna happen. These smart cities. But what's gonna need to happen in order for them to carry it forth is what? Greater um, greater laws, or laws being passed in terms of security. So a greater lockdown on things, more power to the beast, or the government, so to speak, over your information. More recently, we've seen entire cities held hostage by hackers. Both Baltimore and Atlanta saw large swaths of their governments grind to a halt when attackers used ransomware to encrypt government computer systems, demanding large payment in exchange for the key. Residents lost access to everything from online bill payments to deed transfers and even court scheduling. In the case of Baltimore, not only was the city out of action for weeks by the attack, but crucial data was permanently lost. So that's how easy it is. Disturbingly, for those whose health and financial data is held in these systems, hackers can just as easily post what they find in public. As the Wall Street Journal recently noted, the more connected a city is, the more vulnerable it is to cyber attacks. Even with the best security protections, cities can eliminate the threat, not as long as we continue to collect the data. Sadly, for many smart city projects, privacy protections are not just an unwanted expense, but an existential threat. After all, even though these systems are sold with the promise of promoting government efficiency, the true product is often the public itself. And all our data, ventures like Firefly and Link NYC use public location data to do so many tech ventures, to do what so many tech ventures have done. Better target ads. Smart cities create a captive, highly segmented audience, ready to be told what they need to buy, right? So they can coerce you to buy into things, right, that they want you to buy into. But the dangers don't end with the exploitation of surveillance capitalism. As these systems are increasingly integrated into city services, we run the risk of automating age-old biases and further discriminating against marginalized communities. Some of the most visible examples to date have stemmed from the use of racially biased facial recognition in law enforcement and racially or socio-economically biased algorithms in child risk assessments. So, if you didn't know, dealing with facial recognition. Let's not even deal with the software and who writes the software. Let's deal with, because I remember this guy. I'm trying to remember his name, and he worked with Nipsey Hussle, and he developed Nipsey Hussle store. Ghanaian, he's so-called West African, so-called Ghanaian. I forgot his name, man. But basically, he broke it down in an interview on Hot 97. He said, look, okay, he said, not even dealing with the software. He said, look, the cameras, the way they were developed was they were developed not for the recognition of not to recognize so-called black people or the dark skinned people. They're more geared towards the recognition of so-called white people. Okay, so now you have something known as facial recognition. The pixelation of so-called dark skinned people basically is going to be more difficult to map out because the cameras have been more tailor made. The pixelation is more tailored towards people of a so-called lighter complexion. So the defining factor of your face won't be on point if you're dark skinned. All right. Then on top of that, the people that are programming these softwares are not anyone from of so-called dark skin race, are all so-called white people. So this actually makes it just straight up discriminative because it doesn't correctly define the characteristics in terms of the face of the dark skinned people or not. So there's a racial that's part of the racial bias, and even the marketing social economically biased. So you're always going to be pitted into a stereotype in terms of what's being marketed to you. So basically, this is drawing the lines even greater. And I know they showed you this in the 13th Amendment documentary, where they basically said like they changed all the wording, like the racism was brought forth in a different manner. So it was changed in terms of, instead of actually saying the word nigger, it basically was turned to these. I can't remember point for point, but basically they set the lines of segregation in a different manner, outside of just straight up telling you, look, you're a nigger, we don't fuck with you. It's more of a thing like, we set these laws in place, they really go against you, but it makes it look like we're not going directly against you. All right. So the risks likely go even further than what we can imagine now. So this whole system is being set in place to basically do what? To basically really forward the affliction upon the so-called Negroes, Hispanics, and Native Americans, and all their descendants the world over, who are the true Israelites of the Bible, all right, and basically bring the New World Order, which is Esau's, his plan that he carefully sought with tears after he lost the blessing. This is his way that he's going to keep hold on his blessing. Rather than accept the New York's new chip proposal, advocates are speaking out, and now the New York City Council is considering a bill that would outlaw this type of feature. If the bill passes, it will be a milestone in the backlash against smart cities and a clear signal we need to slow down and think more clearly about the implementation before accidentally rushing into a dystopian future we can't come back from. Alright, so, and really and truly, the reality is that that's where it's headed. Alright, because the Lord said it, and that's that. Alright, so it's gonna happen. Now, let me close these things quickly. So this is, I'm gonna read the scripture, read it to the point. So I wanna mention this, so I'm gonna read it, man. So I'm going to read this in Genesis 27:39. And Isaac his father answered and said unto him. Now this is after Esau basically came unto his father, Isaac, who basically had just given the blessing unto Jacob after Jacob living up to his namesake, Yaquab, which means supplanter, which he supplanting the birthright of Esau unto himself, which was a fulfillment of prophecy anyway, which, that's the ultimate reason why it played out the way it did, because the Most High made it a prophecy, right? And his word doesn't go out of void, right? And Isaac his father answered and said unto him, behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth. Now this is when Esau said, can you give me a blessing, man? Basically, behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth and the dew of heaven from above. So he's going to have rulership over the whole earth, right? Total rulership. And by thy sword shalt thou live, and shalt thou serve thy brother. So basically, the catch is that he's going to live by the sword in order to fulfill this blessing. Now, dealing with going back to the Roman Empire, when you have the breakdown of it in Daniel's, the 7th chapter, what does it tell you? That he lived, that they had they were exceedingly dreadful and powerful, and they had great teeth, alright? Because that was that military might, that was the rulership of the sword, and that's why it was denoted by in Daniel's 2nd chapter as being iron, because iron in terms of wealth is inferior to all the previous metals being bronze, silver and gold. But guess what, in terms of its density, it's superior. And why would it need to be more dense than those other materials, or those previous kingdoms which had those materials? Because it had a great and exceedingly strong military might, and that's denoted by, and that's why this blessing, that's why it was denoted as such, because it was a fulfillment of this blessing. All right. And by thy sword shalt thou live, and shalt serve thy brother. And it shall come to pass, when thou shalt have the dominion, that thou shalt break his yoke from off thy neck. So the only time Esau is going to have that, his ability to be over Jacob, which got the initial blessing of the kingdom of heaven, rulership forever basically, is when he utilizes that sword. And that's why the system he has in place presently is as such, because it's all set up with laws and boundaries that basically set up as to where, if you cross these boundaries are set that keep me in rulership and keep you obedient, then I'm going to come through with my blessing of the sword and put you in place. And then with that being done, let's not forget the same spirit that's on Esau is on Cain, because Cain and Esau are one and the same. Because Cain, it said, if anyone seeks any form of revenge on Cain, that even though he had a mark on him, the mark was really to let people know, like, look, don't do nothing to him, because if you do, it'll fall sevenfold upon you. Like, he will get your blood basically. And then you had Tubal Cain, I believe, which actually said if it was 7 times on Cain, then it's 7 times, 10 times 7, or 7 times 7 upon me then. So, and it's the same thing in effect with Esau. That's why he feels like he can do this. But the Lord, the Most High Power, Yahweh B'Shem El Shah, is the one that's going to bring him into judgment, all right, by the hand of his people, Jacob, as it tells you in the book of 2nd Ezra, the 6th chapter, and the 9th verse onwards, to verse 41. And Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing. So that's the main reason. He hated him because he had the greater blessing of the kingdom. And that's why this system is, as I just said, wherewith his father blessed him. And Esau said in his heart, the days of mourning my father are at hand. Then will I slay my brother Jacob. Because if he slays his brother Jacob, guess what? There ain't no one to stop him. All right? He's going to have total rulership forever, as far as he's concerned. And that shows his lack of faith. All right? And these words of Esau, her elder son, were told to Rebekah, and she sent and called Jacob her younger son, and said unto him, behold, thy brother Esau, as touching thee, doth comfort himself, purposing to kill thee. Right? So that was his comfort, and that's why it tells you in Hebrews 12, he wanted to get the blessing back, though he sought carefully with tears. So when he lost the blessing, though that the pain he felt, has led us to where we're at right now. Right, so I want to finish up on this. It's Isaiah 36:6, one of my favorite scriptures, man. This is Isaiah 33:6. Lo, thou trustest in a staff of this broken reed on Egypt. Alright, Egypt obviously ain't a powerhouse today as it was once upon a time. But it tells you that spiritual Edom, Egypt, and Sodom shall come forth, which is dealing with America. Alright, beast, NATO in the EU. Okay, and this is the beast that's being spoken of, sorry. And that's why it says, Lo, thou trustest in the staff of this broken reed on Egypt. Because you had our people going back then that trusted in Egypt back then. Alright. I'll read this very quickly. Isaiah 30:1. Woe to the rebellious children, saith the Lord, that take counsel but not of me, and that cover with a covering but not of my spirit, that they may add sin to sin. And this is only going to lead to their downfall. That walk down to go down into Egypt and have not asked at my mouth to strengthen themselves in the strength of Pharaoh and to trust in the shadow of Egypt. Therefore shall the strength of Pharaoh be your shame, and the trust of the shadow of Egypt your confusion. Because guess what? They're going to take the trust ultimately is going to come in the form of the RFID chip, which I'm going to read into, which is going to be their shame, because it tells you in Revelations 14:9 that if you take that chip, guess what? You're going to be destroyed, alright? And then you're going to have your head hanging low, down in shame in the kingdom. So Isaiah 36:6, Lo, thou trustest in the staff of this broken reed on Egypt, wherein the reed's talking about cannula. You know, even if you look up the Latin word cannula basically means a reed. So it's talking about the cannula being the instrument that's used to thrust the RFID chip into your right hand or into someone's body. So it says, wherein if a man leans, so if you lean upon that cannula, it will go into his hand, alright, and pierce it, alright? And that's part of one of the root words that speaks of the word mark. Is it says karab, you know, a thing in incision, and then karux is a stake, right? And when you have the saying stake your claim, and that's why you had America when they so-called went up on the moon. What did they do? They staked their claim as being a superior Edomite nation by putting the flag so-called in the moon. That was staking a claim that they're the greatest nation upon the earth, all right? So this is the same thing. When it's pierced, they're staking a claim by piercing into the earth, or piercing into wherever you're staking your claim that's yours. And by them piercing into the flesh of someone's hand, that's a stake of claim with that person, alright? That means they're a possession unto them. And that's how they go down into Egypt, and they trust in the shadow of Egypt. So is Pharaoh, king of Egypt, to all that trust in him. And that goes hand in hand with the law of the Hebrew servant in Exodus 21st chapter about an ear being pierced at the wall by an awl, alright? And that means that they